Hello, and welcome to another episode of Tattoo Smart Live. I'm Russ Abbott, and I'll be talking with Cassady Bell. This episode is going to be particularly interesting to anyone who would like to learn how to become a professional tattoo artist. If you are looking for answers on how to begin a career in tattooing, you're going to hear some great perspectives in this episode. My objective for tonight is to foster discussion about the many avenues to enter the tattoo business. There are so many resources available to help you find your way into tattooing, and you'll likely use some combination of them. Rather than choosing one path, you might start out watching some YouTube videos or collecting some tattoos at a local shop. You might buy a book or sign up for an online course. Eventually, you might become certain enough that a career in tattooing is in your future, that you dedicate yourself to building a portfolio of artwork and set out to find an apprenticeship. In some cases, you might sign up for a tattoo school. When I compare the tattoo business today to how it was when I started it, it's a vastly different landscape. However, it appears that the most vocal members of the tattooing community are still adamant in their belief that an apprenticeship is the only acceptable route to get started in tattoos. I don't want my ideas and opinions to go unchallenged for long without a periodic examination. So let's make this discussion more open-minded. In case you don't know me, I'm coming from the perspective of a nearly 25-year career as an illustrative style tattooist. I'm the executive creative director of Ink and Dagger Tattoo, and I'm the founder and CEO of Tattoo Smart. I'm working with tattooers all around the world to build a library of digital design tools for your iPad, while also help to play a role in the professional development of artists through videos like this one, and I hope you're going to get a lot of value out of the time you spend with us in this conversation. My guest tonight is Cassady Bell, who is a geometric and blackwork style tattooer from Oregon, the only state in the US that requires tattooists to attend training at a state licensed tattoo school. If you aren't aware, in most of this country, tattoo schools are not prevalent. They pop up here and there, but almost no professional tattooist seems to claim that they ever went to one. Perhaps they secretly went early in their careers, and then upon leaving to enter the workforce, they discovered that it was best to keep their tattoo school days a secret. Well, I happen to know at least one incredible tattooist that got their start at a tattoo school, and that is this charming fellow right here. Also, I'm aware that the tattoo culture in Oregon is different than it is here in Georgia, where my business is located. So I'd want to delve into those differences as well. If you're watching this live, you can interact with us and comment on our page. If you enjoy this content and you feel like showing your appreciation, it would warm my heart if you would simply hit subscribe on this channel. Subscribing makes it more likely that you will see the next video we put out, and it helps the channel rank better in the algorithm. If you're watching a replay of this later, you can leave a comment on the video and let us know your view on these topics. Okay, now you can finally meet Cassady Bell. Hey, Cassady.
Hi.
How you doing? You got your margarita?
I'm doing all right. Cheers to that.
All right, cheers.
Yes, I'm doing wonderful.
Awesome.
How are you?
Well, now that I made it through that intro, I'm feeling pretty good.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, that's never fun.
Oh,
Yeah, people probably don't realize that I've been reading off the teleprompter for that part.
I mean, maybe.
Is it obvious?
It's a little obvious.
All right.
I don't know. You did really good in the first part.
Yeah, it's like as soon as it starts, your heart just starts racing. And,
Oh, sure. Yeah.
There's the power.
I mean, my heart started racing when you started. So.
All right. So we're here. A little background for our viewers. Actually, how long have we known each other? I was trying to think what year.
I don't know. I was trying to think too. It's got to be at least like 6 or 7 years at this point.
Yeah, must
but
be.
My brain is so bad at like the time scale type of thing.
Sure.
When I think it's 7 years, it's like 4 years. But I don't know. I'd say at least 5 years for sure.
All right,
like 5, 6, 7.
Well, that seems like we've been working on your back piece that long, right?
Mm-hmm.
5 years.
Yeah. Okay. And I mean, I must have started the back piece like I want to say the second guest spot. I think I came out.
Right. That's right. Because you've been the Ink and Dagger a number of times.
Yeah.
All right, so you've been guest spotting at the shop this week. You just got tattooed for 2 days in a row. Yeah. How are you feeling?
A little sore for sure. The butt hurts. Yeah, getting your butt tattooed is not the best. Am I
Yeah,
sitting
yeah,
close
just
to
like
that?
we're both on the edge of the frame. We
Alright.
should both be a little closer.
Let me
All right,
go.
all right, sounds good.
Well, yeah,
I
no,
got this in
actually,
here too.
surprisingly, overall, pretty good. I tattooed all day today with a fresh tattoo, so
Yeah,
I'm doing all right.
all right, good. Well, I appreciate you, taking off a little early and
Yeah,
join me over here and do this thing. So when I knew that you were coming, and I wanted to think of a topic that you and I could discuss that would be not only interesting to me, but interesting to our viewers. And of course, we could talk about geometric tattoos and all of the crazy stuff you do in your designs, and maybe we could save that for another day if we don't have time today. But I really thought that it was interesting. I've always thought it was interesting since I learned that you went to tattoo school.
oh yeah.
Yeah, so I just thought it would be really cool to bring you on and get your experience. Yeah, so why don't you just kind of take us back to like when you started tattooing, or maybe before you started tattooing, when you were just trying to figure out how you could tattoo, and take as much time as you want and tell me
Sure.
what happened.
Um, I'd say like my just beginning of getting into tattooing, like I grew up with super hippie parents in very much like the middle of nowhere in Southern Oregon. My hometown has no stores, no businesses, only houses, farms, and whatnot. So, like, I mean, that's set the picture a little bit. So, me growing up, I didn't really have a lot of exposure to tattoos. I think, I mean, I definitely had seen people with tattoos here and there, and almost immediately was just like, I love everything about that. Or like, I guess initially it's just I love the way they look. I love people with tattoos. And this is when I'm a teenager. So I think I want to say I found like a punk rock zine or something somewhere that had how to do stick and poke tattoos. So my first tattoo ever in my life was me tattooing myself. I want to say like 14 or 15 years old. And honestly was like hooked from the beginning. I feel like people say that, but like I never like wanted to do anything else after that. I just wanted to tattoo myself, even though it was terrible.
So was it all
So
stick and poke at that point?
yeah. When I was like 14.
Okay.
And so doing these little I think that on my arm, it was on my arm, but I've since covered it and then lasered it and then covered it again. But yeah, so like when I was a teenager, I was just doing the stick and poke tattoos on my friends, on myself. And then when I went through high school and whatnot, and um, I don't know, I think there was a point where my family was really pushing me to go to college and stuff, but I just didn't know what I wanted to do. And like, I don't want to go pay all this money for college. And I know I want to make art. And I know I had made these tattoos that I love doing, even though they were so rudimentary and not like, pen ink in my skin. Uh, And I literally just got on the internet and even like, I mean, I don't know. I don't even know if Google was a thing at that point, but got on the internet and just
So you got on
how,
like an AOL chat room or something?
I mean, it's probably like Yahoo search or something, probably the equivalent of what a lot of people do today. Just like, how do I become a tattooer? And uh, being in Oregon, it's state mandated, you have to go to this tattoo school in order to become a tattooer, in order to be like legally able to tattoo in Oregon.
Right.
And so I think even at that point, like I don't know how long it was going before I had searched for that on the internet, but it was a thing at that point. And so I just call up to whatever random tattoo school that I found and just talk to them on the phone, like how do I get into your school and how do I become a tattooer? And I mean, as anyone can imagine, not too crazy. They're like, oh, you got to pay this money. And I think they did require like a level of artistic ability already.
Mhm.
So, like, bring a portfolio of whatever your art is. But um, I don't think there was much other than that. And at that point, I was living in Southern Oregon, about 4 hours south of Portland. And so the school I had talked to was in Portland. And I basically just left my life in Southern Oregon. I was working at a convenience store or something, and living in, like it wasn't much, but I was like, I gotta go do this thing.
Right.
And so I just packed.
How old were you?
I was, I think, 18 at that point.
Okay.
Because that's the requirements. You got to be 18. I think I had to have like some level of high school equivalent.
So how much did they charge you for that?
I think at the time, I want to say it was like 10 grand.
Okay.
And
how did you have 10 grand from the convenience store?
No. I asked my dad to help me out, which he was not very stoked about.
Right.
And I think I had worked out some deal with him, like, if I borrow this 10 grand from you, I'll come back and I'll work it off, or, I had some kind of trade or something going with him.
Yeah.
And because he was very reluctant, he did not want me to become a tattooer. He didn't want me to get tattoos, very much against tattooing. So luckily, he actually helped me.
Yeah.
And then, so I went up, I just left, packed all my shit up, moved to Portland, and I somehow, like, I didn't think to call them ahead of time and set up any kind of anything. I just was like, I'm moving to Portland, I'm gonna become a tattooer. And so then I walk into this tattoo school, and it was, I don't know, I guess you can't imagine it, but like, it was a tattoo shop in the front. So they had maybe 3-4 artists, and then they had, like, the building was kind of divided in half. So the back side was the school side. And I think when I went and tried to sign up, I think they only accepted maybe 3 or 4 people at a time. And I just walked into the shop like, hey, I'm here to become a tattooer. And I brought my sketchbook. That's all I had at the time. Like, I wasn't doing fine art. I wasn't doing really anything that meant I guess that I say it wasn't meant anything, but it was my art. And they were just basically told me, like, they opened my sketchbook and looked through it. And I remember it very distinctly, like, every page they turned, they were just like, that's not a tattoo. That's not a tattoo. Everything. Like, nope. Like, this is not tattoo art.
Right.
Or like, it's not worthy of, or not even that it's not worthy, like, it's not able to tattoo. I was drawing all these like weird little intricate designs and stuff. And I mean, what I would imagine would be a similar, experience for someone going to get an apprenticeship.
Right.
So I bring my sketchbook in, I show it to them, and they're like, no, like, none of this stuff is tattooable. But then they're also like, all right, well, you want to sign up for the school? It doesn't matter what your sketchbook has. You can still sign up.
Right.
Like, okay, cool. But then they didn't have any room for me.
Mm-hmm.
So I just moved to Portland. Like, I don't have anything, I barely have a job. And so I think I got a job as a pedicab driver for those bicycle taxis.
Okay.
And so I started doing that, and I just went back to that school, I want to say every other day, or at least twice a week. Go back to this place. And, hey, I want to get into your school.
Right.
And I know you don't have any room, but you got to let me learn how to tattoo. That's all I wanted to do. And eventually, I imagine it was the owner or somebody. He was like, well, we only accept this many students, and we're only open this many days. I think the school itself was only like 3 days a week or something. And so they're like, there's not a lot of time for us to like be teaching these kids. So if you want to come in on the days off, you can come do the book work.
Right.
And I think they had compiled, like, I don't even know, they had so much information from, like, I want to say from like electrology. Okay.
I'm going to put this slide up on the screen here. It says that Oregon has required tattoo school since 1993. They require 360 hours of training, 210 hours for theory, and 150 hours practical. What does that mean?
Yeah, so when I went in there, they were, I mean, what I say book work. Let's see, what is it? 360 hours of training. Yeah,
210
so the
hours of theory.
210 hours of theory, I imagine, is what I would call the book work, right?
Okay.
So they had a whole bunch of stuff. I want to say it was like electrology courses, because that was like some
Makes
of the
sense. Okay.
yeah, and we're not talking like tattoo book work.
Really?
Like it was all disorders of the skin, everything from things that could go wrong to just learning the composition of the skin, all the anatomy of the skin, all the layers of the skin, all the functions of your hair follicles and all the little bits and pieces that are. I mean, I don't remember too much of that now, but
because it's not relevant to tattooing.
I mean,
really, honestly, I mean,
yeah,
I've never learned that stuff.
It is and it isn't, but
Yeah.
I think it was, maybe an overkill, but
Right.
very much so, like learning everything to do with the skin.
Mhm.
And a lot of it was, the disorders and all of what kind of like psoriasis and, dermatitis, that kind of stuff.
I'm starting to think that you may be more qualified than me to tattoo people after going to this school.
I mean, I don't know. I don't know that qualifies me, but and like it says, 210 hours. So I went in on my days off, or on their days off rather. And when they didn't have students in the school, and because I wanted to get this thing done. And so I'm doing all this, watching videos and reading books, and they have me do like tests on every kind of whatever section of whatever I was learning. And then eventually they did have a spot open up for me. And I start going to the school, and I'm not sure, like, this is a long time ago. But I think I went to this tattoo school in maybe 2009, maybe 2008. My memory's not the best, but so when I went, we learned to build needles, and that was where we started after all the bookwork stuff. So even if I wouldn't have gone on their days off, I just started as a normal student. They would have, had me start with the bookwork, and then you go into building needles. And I think that's like everyone's biggest thing about tattoo school. Oh, you're not going to learn all this stuff. And I honestly, I have to say, I don't think the schools now are focused on that stuff. Probably because of all the cartridges and rotaries and stuff.
Right.
But yeah, when I went, I learned how to build needles, all the things, all the jigs and all the fun stuff.
Did you learn how to mix pigments?
Didn't learn how to make things.
Did you build tattoo machines?
We didn't build tattoo machines, but we had to, like, I can't remember. I think we started with Mickey Sharp's machines, and they had this really fun thing where you start with your brand new machine, take it all apart, every part of it, every little screw and washer and all that. And of course, as I'm taking it apart, I lay everything out on this table like perfectly so that I remember how to put it all back together. And then whoever was the instructor came up and just like jumbled it all up for me.
Wait, this sounds exactly like an apprenticeship.
Yeah. Oh, they just like mix it up on the table,
Right.
And then they're like, all right, put it all back together. And then you put whatever, figure it out, put it all back together, and then take the needle that I made myself and tattoo myself with the needle that I made myself and the machine that I had to put back together.
Yeah. Okay, so wow. I mean, it all sounds like an apprenticeship to me.
Like
Wait, the only thing that doesn't sound like an apprenticeship so far is that it didn't really matter if you could draw, or I guess if they liked you.
I mean,
do you think it mattered if they liked you?
I don't think they liked me.
Okay, so they didn't like you.
No, I mean, I don't know.
Right.
I mean, you can see me now, but I don't think that. I mean, I was just as weird then. I didn't have yellow hair, but I was weird in my own way, minus the tattoos and whatnot, but I don't think they liked me. And I think that going into it with, my strange drawings and whatnot, I mean, I think that was a big factor. They were just like, oh, you can't do those as tattoos.
Right.
And there was definitely a big focus on them, like trying to get me to draw things that were more tattooable. I don't know that there was a focus on me drawing anything that was decent or good, but definitely like make something that's not, 1,000 lines packed into each other, or so much, things that you can't really. It's not going to be a tattoo.
Right.
Like all those lines are going to get blurred together and whatnot. So there was a focus on that for sure.
Yeah.
But I don't. I think the focus on me being like a decent artist, or making something good, wasn't really there.
Mhm. Did you have drawing assignments while you were there?
We did, yeah. So I had to draw flash sheets,
Mhm.
and I think it was every week I had to produce a flash sheet, and they would give us different themes, which was funny for me because like I remember the first themed sheet that I got was Man's Ruin, and which is obviously a classic tattoo theme. But me being from the middle of nowhere in the woods, from a hippie family, I didn't understand the assignment at all. So I just drew what I thought was Man's Ruin, which is like, it was like, I don't even remember the specific things, but it was all over the place. Like, I think there was like a big like oil refinery or something, and like I was just like, what are the worst parts of humanity, And they're like, when I turned in the sheet, they're like, this is fucking stupid. Like, no, like, where's your like, dice and like fucking card game or something?
I'm gonna throw up a question here on the screen.
All right.
Anthony Iannucci. Hey, Ant. Who wants to know who are the educators? Who is teaching you
Yeah.
at tattoo school?
So when I went to school, so I think I have to make a somewhat of a distinction, because the school that I went to, I think, is a little bit different than the schools that exist now. I will say I think there may have been a decline, just because I mean it's a government run type of situation. So I don't know how much like checking in there is on the actual education part, but the guy that owned the school, as far as I know, was a cosmetic tattooer, and I don't think he ever actually did an actual tattoo.
Right.
So he was the actual owner. I shouldn't say that in quote. He was the owner.
Okay.
And then there was 3 or 4 artists that worked in this school. That, like I said, there's a shop and then a school, and they were all tattooers. So, like, I actually got, I think, this tattoo from one of the people that worked there as a teacher. But many years later, I ran into him, and it's also a design that I designed for him. But I wouldn't say they were all the best tattooers, but they were still professional guys. I mean, I think they all own shops in Portland now after working at the school. I don't know.
Right. Okay, that brings me to another interesting topic. Now, fast forward, you end up, leaving the tattoo school after however long.
Yeah.
After 210 hours of theory and 150 hours of practical, and documenting 50 completed procedures and passing a written exam.
Which most of I did all myself.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. My thighs are solid.
Oh, wow. All right, so you're finally out of there. What was next for you? Did you just kind of have an easy end to a tattoo shop after that?
Yeah, totally. So I was completely overwhelmed by living in the city, which, thinking back on it, was kind of funny. But so I moved from Southern Oregon to Portland, biggest city I'd ever been in or lived in, rather. And I was overwhelmed. So I moved back to Grants Pass, which is right outside where I grew up. And ironically, one of the other students at the school I was at, who was a complete disaster, and he ended up getting kicked out of the school. He was the whole time was bragging about how he had a spot, and he was going to go work after he got out of school, and it was in Grants Pass, Oregon. So naturally, I went to that shop because he got kicked out of the school. And I was like, oh shit, he's talking about this spot that's open for him, and he's not going there because he got kicked out. So I just walked into the shop, this old school biker shop in Grants Pass, Oregon, and I was like, hey, I need a place to work, and got hired there. And the only other tattooer that was there was like 60 years old, and I think he had learned from the owner who had died from hepatitis.
Okay.
It was super cool. And so this super old, I say super old, that's super rude, but
He was 40.
he was super old of 60. And I don't know, he was old, at least to me at that point too. And wasn't the best tattooer that I could see, even at that point in my career. And then I don't know what the stipulations were, but he got fired almost immediately after I got hired. And so I was very fresh out of the tattoo school, and which took me 2 months to go through, by the way.
Oh, you were only there for 2 months?
2 months, because
Oh.
I tattooed all the tattoos on myself.
Okay.
And because so I went before I started my thing, I did all the book work, and then needles, all that stuff, went through that, and then they're like, do 50 tattoos. And I'm like, done and done. Let's do 3 a day on myself. So set up, tattoo, breakdown. Set up, tattoo, breakdown. 3 a day until I'm done.
So you weren't ever tattooing anyone else?
I did tattoo some other people, but I like their one thing was that you had to bring your own people in. So they didn't want any walk-ins or anyone that was coming into the shop to get tattooed to be like passed off to school. I think it's fair. Yeah. So like anyone that
those Yelp reviews coming in.
No, they're like anyone that walks in is getting tattooed by like the tattooers. Anyone that is getting tattooed by the school folks, you have to like bring those people in. So I also just moved to Portland. I don't know anyone. So I'm like, all right, anyone at my like pedicab job where like, if you want to get tattooed on the side, I think it was like $20 or something to get the tattoo.
Right.
So yeah, I got hired at this shop, and then immediately they fire the other guy, and then I'm there alone for, I want to say like 2 solid years.
Right.
And working in an old school biker shop.
Yeah.
Where like, not the best clientele, walk-in shop, and which probably was, looking back, it's one of the better things that could have happened. Like I got to cut my teeth like with no mentor and with no one that I could like call or look to like help me, and just, all right, here's all these random white trash people from Grants Pass, Oregon that want the dumbest tattoos ever. And I mean, I still have the portfolio from that time period, which is hilarious.
I wish we had that.
I know. I wish I should have brought it, but
all right,
next time. It's great. It's all like photos taken on disposable cameras, and who knows, like the worst pictures ever of the worst tattoos ever.
Right. Well, look, I mean, in a lot of ways, that sounds like an apprenticeship.
Yeah.
I mean, in some of the ways that it might be different, in my experience, there isn't usually anybody that you have to answer to when you take on the apprentice. Like, you don't have to document how many tattoos they do. You don't have to pass any written exam.
Really?
You don't have to, sometimes you don't have to pay. Sometimes you do have to pay.
Yeah.
There's no set curriculum. It's just really up to the mentor and the studio that you happen to end up with, how they decide to apprentice you. And at least it seems like in Oregon, there's at least this standard that the people that are going through these schools have to meet. Whether, I'm sure there's a lot of variation between the schools. So I mean, give me a sense of like, what you've seen as far as the abilities of people coming out of tattoo school, because I know that you own a shop now. So
yeah,
how many different, straight out of tattoo school people have you worked with?
Yeah, I've owned my shop for 5 years now, and I think I've hired 4 people now straight from tattoo school. So with no previous tattoo experience at all, they never had, I mean, maybe they've interacted with other tattooers, but never got to work in any other environment except for coming straight from the tattoo school to my shop. And I mean, one of them is very new. I just hired her, but the other 3 were almost like, I mean, I was jealous of them, watching them hit the ground running. Like immediately, the first tattoos they're doing are like tattoos I did 6 years into my career, which is wild to watch.
Yeah.
And I do think like, you know, the credit should be given to like people that are already very much in their art career. So those people that I hired, I saw that like, okay, you've already been a professional artist, you've been painting, you've been, you know, making murals, or like they have very extensive art careers before they became tattooers.
Right.
And then they saw tattooing as like a way to, you know,
Take it one step further, right?
yeah. I mean,
And did they also have some pretty well developed, positioning as artists and
yeah,
social media accounts
totally,
that
yeah.
were pretty well developed, so they sort of had already an audience that were just ready to support them as tattooers.
So yeah, I think the people that I've seen do really well out of the tattoo schools obviously are like you're saying, very much like they have a huge following, or even if it's not like a big social media following, you know, they have an established following of people that are supporting their art already.
Mhm.
And because I've also seen the other thing where, you know, you get these random folks that maybe they don't have a huge art background, or they just see tattooing as something fun to do or a hobby or whatever. I think that is a weird part about the tattoo school in Oregon, where anyone can pay to do it. So it, I think that's a big side of things that people look down on. Where and honestly, I would consider me being one of those people. Like I wouldn't be somebody that was a candidate for an apprenticeship. Like I don't think that back past or rewind back to that time when I went to the school, I wouldn't have taken me on as an apprentice.
I say the same
So
thing about myself.
yeah, and
I can't believe that they
I
did the apprenticeship.
yeah,
I came in with, just a few crappy drawings, and I was, hiding the fact that I'd already started tattooing with a kit,
yeah,
right? Like, it was, I didn't hide it for very long. I actually ended up having to give all of my existing equipment to them so they would trust I wouldn't be tattooing out of my
nice.
house anymore.
Oh,
But
they took your equipment away from you.
yeah,
Nice.
that
I
was
mean, that
like,
was
if
a
you
good-
quit, you're
good
not
on
getting this
them.
back, and I like that. But the fact is, like, as you're recalling these details, I'm honestly not finding a lot that was different.
Yeah, I mean, I
You
don't
know?
think it was too different.
I didn't pay, but I
No,
also didn't pass some like rigid art test. I had to do a set, amount of drawings every week. I had to make needles. I had to scrub tubes.
yeah,
It lasted way longer than 2 months.
I'm sure.
Way longer. It was more
Yeah.
like a year and a half or something like that.
Yeah.
And I think that is, probably one of the bigger differences. Is I just had a lot more time to soak in tattooing,
Totally,
right?
yeah.
Just the time that you spend, like when I've apprenticed people, I haven't had them learn to tattoo right away. I even made them wait to learn to scrub tubes, right? Like it was like, just like with my apprenticeship, like every single thing that you get to do, you sort of earn it, even if it's a crappy thing that no one should want to do. It's like, the only thing I didn't have to earn was scrubbing the toilet. I was allowed to do that on day one. But,
I should say that I did forget that. That was also part of our school.
Right.
So yeah, sweeping the floors, wiping down everything, setting down, or I mean, like even depending on where you are in your whatever progress in your school. So yeah, setting up, breaking down stations for other people, cleaning everything, the whole shop. And I feel like when I went to the school, it was very much in the same realm as going to do an apprenticeship. Mine, like, except for, there's structure created by the state. So all those things, whatever, 360 hours of training, all that, blah, blah, blah. But yeah, I think I guess the biggest takeaway that I have in the negative sense would be that I didn't have a mentor. There was the school training me to do the things, but once I left, like if I were your apprentice and once I become a tattooer, I have you to talk to and ask questions to, and like, I get to have someone that can help me out, even if it's years down the road of like, oh, I'm encountering this problem that I need to figure out.
Right.
So that I think I guess there's a lot of people that go through apprenticeships that also don't have that because maybe the mentor sucks.
Yeah.
But like,
I mean, how many times have you heard my apprenticeship wasn't the ideal one? Like I went to some
yeah,
bikery studio where like everybody was on coke, and I was tattooing the second day, and I was abused. And there's always these sort of horror stories, and you don't run into so many people that have really experienced that ideal that we all imagine.
Yeah.
And I've always been troubled by that.
I had a guy who worked at my shop. His mentor filled the trash cans up with phone books, so that when they took the trash out, it would just be like 1,000,000 pounds of phone books that you had to throw into the garbage. Like for some, who knows what?
We've heard so many crazy stories.
I don't know. Yeah.
I think the culture is shifting away from that for sure. I hope that it is, but I think that I think what's missing right now is more apprenticeships by people who are capable of offering good ones, right? There seems to be, we're all, pressuring everyone who wants to get into tattooing to go get one of those apprenticeships, but I'm not really sure how many are really available.
Yeah, I don't, I'm obviously not out there trying to get an apprenticeship, so I don't know what's out there. And like I said, my experience with learning to tattoo is so different than most people. And honestly, like you were saying in the kind of introduction to all of this, like for years, I would just tell people that I was self-taught. I didn't tell people that I went to a school because once I entered,
it was better to be self-taught than to have gone to a school.
Once I entered the tattoo community, and I started going to conventions. Like I think after I'd been tattooing at that biker shop for maybe 2 years, I went to my first convention, and I was so lost, and I was like terrified. I think I maybe did one tattoo, and I don't even think I really took anything away from that convention. Like I was just like, oh my God, this is terrible. And then I started going to more of them and started meeting more tattooers, and there were guest artists that would come through the shop every once in a while, and like I think being exposed to more tattooers and being part of the tattoo community helped me kind of understand where I stood and understand the community more. And maybe that I was lacking that a little bit because of my upbringing in the tattoo world. But like the more people that I met, I was just like, yeah, I just figured it out. And most of it's true. Like I was tattooing myself, and I was like, I was a scratcher long before I ever went to fucking tattoo school. But like I somehow I would have rather told people that I was a scratcher than tell people that I went to a tattoo school.
Awesome. I want to throw up a question here. You might be able to see it. I'll read it to you. Kat McGrath says, if I ultimately want to live in Oregon at the end of the day, would it be better to go through the school system or do an apprenticeship in another state and come back once I've met Oregon's license requirements?
So like I said, I don't have a lot of perspective on doing the apprenticeship and what we've been talking about of like, I think there's so much variety with apprenticeship. Like I've heard people tell me the horror stories of like the worst things, or like going through apprenticeships and then getting halfway through and then bailing and having to go do another one. So I think there is a little bit of like stability with the school system in Oregon where like you're going through it. You're going to get a license in the end. And, you know, once again, I think that's a big argument that people have of like, oh, you're just like pushing people through the system. But I think when you come out of school, you're definitely going to come out with a basic knowledge. And if not, like maybe more of a knowledge of like, you know, all the cross contamination stuff and medical stuff and, you know, knowledge of the skin and disorders and all that, which I think is fairly important, honestly.
Yeah, certainly.
But I think there's some things you're going to be lacking, obviously, and I encourage people coming out of those schools to go into shops that are going to help you or, you know, be a good environment to grow into. And I think it's a hard question to say like what is better or worse. Because I do have friends that live in Oregon, because Portland is 10 minutes away from Washington. I have friends that have gone to Washington and took apprenticeships and then moved back to Oregon. And I think it's like 3 years. You have to prove you've been a tattooer somewhere else for 3 years and before you can come work in Oregon.
Right.
So tax returns or whatever.
So you have to be a tax-paying
yeah.
at a
You have
tattoo
to
studio
be
somewhere.
not only a tattooer, but you have to be responsible and a taxpayer too.
Right.
And so, yeah, you have to show them that. And I think you have to take some kind of test or whatever to get your license. But I mean, I don't know. It's a hard question to ask or hard question to answer because I've heard of like being your apprentice is probably amazing. Like I would love to do that. And I probably would have loved to be your apprentice way over going to the school I went to. But being the apprentice to somebody else that is, you know, terrible, or people are even using that as like a way to get free labor in their shop, you know, and
Indeed.
they're hiring these apprentices that work for a year and then they did something wrong and then they're just kicked to the dirt and that sucks. Like there's no way to like regulate that. Like
there's also not really anything that you're getting at the end of your apprenticeship. There's no like certificate, you know, there's no documentation. There's really only, you know, like no one actually, you know, asked. I never really dig in deep when I hire someone at Ink and Dagger about how they came up. I assume they came up in some less than ideal way.
Well, you're looking at their portfolio,
and I'm looking at what they can do, right? Exactly. And I'm judging based on not only their work but just their, you know, their personality and their demeanor and their ability to communicate with customers and their, you know, appearance. You know, they look like someone that, you know, keeps themselves clean.
Yeah.
You know, it's like there's a lot of ways to, you know, make yourself into a red flag for a job, any kind of job, including tattooing. I want to talk about this question. I put this question on my Instagram today, and I think it's a really interesting question. The idea here is, let's say that you were just starting to tattoo today, and you could give yourself some advice. Like, how would you tell yourself today, knowing what you know now, in 2022, how to get into tattooing? What would your advice be?
Well, I mean, that's a perfect question because I tell everyone the same exact thing. Any person that ever approaches me that asks me, how do I get into tattooing? What should I do? And I think I would tell myself the same thing that I tell other people. And I guess it's not ironic, but Randy Randerson told me this. And for all you that know Randy Randerson, he's amazing. And shout out to him.
Shout out to Randy Randerson.
Yes. He told me when I first met him and I was struggling to get clients and didn't know how to be busy tattooing or how to, you know, make myself into whatever, you know, he said, draw 5 drawings a day and do that every day for a year. And I think I'd tell my past self the same thing and, you know, create a discipline. And I think anyone that hears draw 5 drawings a day and says, man, that's a lot of drawings, I don't know if I can do that, I'd say you're not ready to be a tattooer. Because, I mean, even if I'm not doing that now, like, it's such a good practice to get into. And, you know, I think everyone should start out working in the fucking cutthroat, you know, whatever, the depths of tattooing. You know, I think working in the walk-in shop is so good for me. And yeah, draw 5 finished drawings every day. And even if you don't do 5 tattoos a day, because that's a lot, like if you draw 5 drawings a day, you're gonna get really good at drawing.
Right.
And yeah, practice, 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 practice. Because that was the one thing I think I was lacking back then was, yeah, it was like drawing and having fun, you know,
And this is
expressing
all
myself.
of this 5 drawings a day. Are we doing this before we buy a kit on Amazon and start
Oh yeah,
tattooing
yeah.
big skins and all
Before
that
you
fun
do
stuff?
anything, yeah.
Yeah.
Before you even think about picking up any machine or, you know, I think 5 drawings a day is what you should do before you even go to your apprenticeship realistically. But, you know,
Right.
it depends. That's nowadays, I mean, like with your art, or I shouldn't say with your art, like with people's art these days, like obviously that's relative because
Sure.
there's already people that are just killing it at art that are going to be great tattooers.
Right.
But I
Okay, so
think,
we're doing 5 drawings a day.
yeah, every day.
What next? How long are we doing 5 drawings a day for?
I'd say at least 6 months.
Okay, so 6 months, 5
And
drawings a
then
day.
if I'm gonna become a tattooer and I'm not a tattooer right now, I mean obviously like when I wanted to become a tattooer back then, I just went on the internet. So I think if I had no knowledge of tattooing, I'd probably do the same thing today.
Where would you go?
I mean obviously I'd just go to Google. You know, if I have no knowledge, you know,
Mhm.
which is where I was back then, and I don't know. I mean, that's how I learned to do anything. And anyone that knows me knows how I learned to do a lot of things, and that's where I go. Go to the internet, ask some questions. I don't think there would be a lot there for me.
For tattooing?
Yeah,
No, I think that there's becoming a lot more for
yeah,
tattooing. Like I recently started, well, almost nightly I'm on YouTube just watching, learning about all kinds of things. And I learned how to do all this video stuff.
yeah,
Hopefully we look and sound okay. I learned that from YouTube,
totally.
and it's, it's always the case that you can get a lot of a head start in learning seemingly anything on YouTube, including tattooing. And I was really interested to find out what the state of tattooing on YouTube was. So I started searching for things like how to tattoo
Yeah,
on YouTube, about a year ago. And I just started watching some of these channels. And I was struck by, for the most part, the people that have the channels that are straight up teaching how to tattoo, like the ones who are showing you how to line on fake skin or,
yeah, totally.
talking about the technical side of things. These are largely less known tattooers, like people that I had never heard of, like people
Yeah,
that didn't have, a reputation in the industry outside of the fact that they're now the ones teaching.
yeah.
Everybody knew how to tattoo. So I think it's really interesting that the people that have those channels that have videos with hundreds of thousands of views are actually the new mentors, right? Like, so there's a generation
Yeah,
of people who are coming into tattooing who, when they think back fondly to their influences, it's
yeah.
it's not,
I've
the
never.
people that it used to be. It's the ones who, basically didn't care about the backlash that they might
Yeah,
receive
totally.
from putting how to tattoo stuff on YouTube. So there is another side of tattooing that is on YouTube. What I consider to be the side from I guess I don't want to say that these folks that are making those videos aren't professional. They're just not like part, in my mind, of the community of tattooers that we know here in the States,
Yeah,
and
I've
of the
never watched
educators that
those.
we know. So there's people who like myself, who have taught at conferences and seminars and have made content that was made for professional tattooers that wasn't made available to anyone who would want.
Yeah,
You had to kind of go through like a gated process to view it. And then, when people like that put this kind of content on where they kind of hold back on the how to tattoo part of it, they actually don't get much of an audience. Like
Totally,
Tattoo Smart's channel is, creeping closer and closer around like maybe around 8,000 subscribers after five something years, right? And then there's some other channels that are a few months old that are, 50,000 subscribers and hundreds of thousands of views. And because, it's obvious that there's an audience for that type of content. And it's hard to get the stuff that's made by the professional side of tattooing that's kind of holding back on some of the basic how to tattoo knowledge and doing stuff like what we're doing. And it's hard to get it out there. It's hard to get anyone to see it who might need to see it so that they see, I guess, what those of us who are, more well established in tattooing would like, for newcomers to know.
I mean, I think there's like a level of like gatekeeping for sure of like, I mean, obviously, when I went to the tattoo school initially, I didn't really like seek out too much other information. Like that wasn't in my head, I guess. Like I wasn't like, oh, where do I get all the things, beyond this tattoo school? I just found that thing and was like, okay, that's what I'm going to do. And I mean, kind of stupidly, but also like makes sense because, I'm going to school. They're the guys that know.
Right.
I came out of that school thinking like, I know all this stuff, which obviously wasn't real, like we all have places to grow, even you and I have so much to learn. But I hired a guy at my shop right out of school, and his experience with learning to tattoo was so much different because he did go to the tattoo school, but then in like the first, months of him working in the shop, he was all over the internet. And like he kept, I'd come into the shop and think, oh man, I like read all these forums and watched all these YouTube videos. Like I have all these questions for you. And I'm like, it was such a new thing to me. I didn't know that that was a resource that anyone who was even thinking about doing, let alone there being other stuff out there. And I just knew from my own experience that when I tried to go and look for stuff, there was almost nothing. And then the more we get into, here we are, fast forward however many years, like there's so much more stuff out there. And yeah, like I think it's, the amount of people that are super knowledgeable, that are the people that we should be learning from, that are putting content out into the world that's readily available, I think is pretty limited.
Well, it's out there. I think what I want to kind of bring the conversation to now is the world of paid online courses.
Yeah.
And paid online community,
Totally.
right? And I think that, I have to mention Reinventing the Tattoo, Guy Aitchison's program.
For sure.
Guy was, a huge educator back when I started tattooing, and I learned so much from his book, Reinventing the Tattoo.
He's such a great teacher too. He's
incredible teacher.
So good at like explaining things.
Right.
Every seminar I've taken from him has been incredible.
Yeah. So, anyone listening to this, if you're looking for an online resource for art and theory and tattooing, just getting to be a part of, the core tattoo community that's very, forward thinking, you can definitely go to Reinventing and check out that. We're also seeing, I'm going to pull up this slide here. This is, I think, 8 different online tattoo academy types of things that we found. Some of these you might have seen, some you might not have. Some of them are by some pretty well-known, notable tattooers. In all cases, the work that you see on these looks like great work. I know you can't see the work on these right now.
Yeah.
But here's at least 8. I'm sure there's a lot more. There's a lot of online paid course type programs that are popping up.
I think the online, like those types of things are. I can't say.
I've never taken one.
I've never taken one.
I've never taken one either.
But I feel like that type of stuff is really good for people that already have a level of like, some basic learning. And I think that's kind of what I experienced with my like going to school was I got this basic framework of, I got the building blocks of tattooing, and then I had to go out and like, find people to learn from. I met you and, going to conventions and, I had to go out and build upon all that, which I think we all have to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
I
think,
mean, I would just never stop.
yeah,
If there was someone who was doing some technique and I just couldn't figure out how to do it, and they had a
yeah,
$1,000 class to learn how to do it, I'm the type of person that would take the
sure,
class.
yeah.
Like
I mean,
I do not like not knowing how to do something,
I'm the same way.
especially with tattooing. So I'm glad that these resources exist. Um, you know, I I am quite sure that in some cases I would be able to learn something from some of these courses.
Yeah,
Even.
yeah.
So
I don't know that
you know,
there's really like a basic, like, this is how you do a tattoo. Like, it's one of those things where, just the super basics, like you could probably make a YouTube video of here's how you set up a machine, but like all of the, this is me doing a tattoo, you have to have some sort of hands-on training for sure.
yeah.
And
You know what's most important, I think, is to have someone there to say, "Hey, no,
yeah,
no, don't do that."
totally,
Like
yeah,
just stop. Because I mean, how many bad tattoos could they save you from? Just being in an environment with
sure, yeah,
someone there to stop you from doing something awful, or just to have someone to check in with when you're midstream in a tattoo and
yeah.
something just isn't going right and you're not
Even
sure
just
why.
like turn your machine this way,
Yeah,
or
right.
yeah, you're running it a little too fast or something. But I mean, I think the online stuff is great for like once you started tattooing. But I mean, going back to that question you're asking me is like, what would I do now to learn to tattoo? I mean, obviously I would go to the internet, but I think, I mean, honestly, I like to learn a lot of things, and I've learned how to do probably more things than most people in the world. And I would still probably call a tattoo shop and be like, hey, what do I do? And how do I get into this? I don't know that like the online stuff would be good enough for me. If I watched a YouTube video, I mean, I probably would just try it on myself or on my dumb friends, which I guess, I mean, here we are today, 2022, and that's probably what a lot of people are doing. I mean, I think the availability of like just supplies and information and everything has changed so much too, because you could just go on Amazon or wherever and find anything you could ever imagine. Where when I was like on the internet trying to figure out how to tattoo when I was a teenager, there wasn't that. Like, I think there was like maybe a few forums and stuff, but that was about it. Like, you couldn't just go buy a tattoo kit. I think it was, like, I can't remember the name. There was a supply company that I bought all my scratcher shit from. Like, man, I can't remember the name of it.
I want to go to the folks in the chat room. I'm looking
Right.
I want to find out if there's anyone who is in the chat room who is actually not tattooing yet and is trying to figure out how to get into tattooing. And if you are, just let us know, before this talk, what it was that you thought you might do. Like what types of things have you tried to get into tattooing? So just throw that up in the comments, and we'll look out for that. How do we? I mean, I can't get us another drink.
Can you do that?
All right. Oh, we're gonna text upstairs and order another round of margaritas. Okay.
But yeah, I mean,
All right.
I'm curious to know too, like if you're starting to get into wanting to tattoo now, because I know that in Oregon, like I just hired a woman who was working for DreamWorks, and she was
Wow.
working in film, and she decided that she wanted to become a tattooer. Now, obviously, she's an artist, and she already has a whole thing. Like, she's working for DreamWorks,
Yeah.
and she was in Oregon, and she just went to tattoo school, and I just hired her, and her work is incredible, and it's wild that in where I live, like, is that easy to just be like, I'm doing this thing, let's fucking do it.
Mhm.
And I think in a lot of parts of I mean, everywhere else, you can't do that.
Right.
And I'm not here to say like everyone go to tattoo school, because obviously there's some flaws and there's a lot of things that could be done better. But I think just having some sort of regulation, some sort of just like, here you go, is obviously a benefit to a lot of people that are very skilled and want to just jump right into it.
Right.
And I think, obviously there's a million people out there that are like, we don't need more tattooers.
But a lot of the people who go through that, say 2 month, $10,000 experience that you had, don't stick with it.
Oh yeah, no.
There's probably a lot of people who are like, you know what, I did that, and it wasn't all I thought it would be.
Yeah.
I will. I know of a lot of people who apprenticed for a while and didn't stick with it too. So, that's kind of across the board.
I think there's a lot of people that that are not necessarily artistic folks, that are not necessarily, they don't really have the drive for it, even if they're artistic, But I think there's a lot of people that go into it seeing money or
Right.
Hold on, sorry.
So Kat McGrath says, I'm not yet tattooing. I'm deciding between going back to Arizona because I have lined up an apprenticeship there, or staying in Portland where I currently am and just going to school.
Okay.
Says I have a reliable shop and mentor in Arizona, but ultimately want to stay in Oregon. Hence my question. My biggest issue right now is the 10K.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I'm curious. How close to 10K are you, Kat? You have 8K, 9K, 1K?
I would also say if you're going to do an apprenticeship, you're not going to get paid for that time that you're there. So you're probably going to be working at a job and then doing your apprenticeship for no money, or, very little money.
And not enough time to have another job. I also hear the job market in Portland is not fantastic.
I don't know about the job market anywhere,
right.
but I don't know.
Right.
I can't speak on that. But
okay.
I think the cost of moving to Arizona and getting a job there,
right.
and the time that it will take, I would factor that in. But also, I think the thing about, like I said, if you're in Oregon and you're going to a tattoo school, you're guaranteed, assuming you finish the school, you're guaranteed to be tattooing after that. Obviously, there's a long way to go, a lot of learning, just like any beginning of anything.
Right.
But I don't know. I think moving to Arizona and getting an apprenticeship probably would cost 10K or more, depending on how long you're there. And I don't know. That's a hard one to say. You should do one thing or the other.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. Yeah. How can we totally give you the right advice? We don't know all the details.
Yeah, no. I don't know that we're here for that, but
he has a couple of thousand right now.
Okay.
That's a good start.
Yeah, and like I said, you go to the school and you're tattooing after that, and I also think that it's not it's like any other thing.
It's like you said, your dad helped you out with it, right?
Yeah,
10 grand was.
And I ended up paying him back over a course of however long, but and I know that that's like a big amount of money, but people also pay that much money to go to an apprenticeship too. I've met some people that have paid pretty large amounts of money to go to apprenticeships and then get treated like shit. So that's a hard decision. I don't know that we can answer that one. What else we got?
Well, just more from Kat. She says, this is all very helpful. Thank you guys. You're welcome, Kat. We wish you the best.
Of course.
Speakeasy Tattoo says, you will pay in money or in time either way. Mine was almost 3 years of 25 hours a week. We charge apprentices for inventory used during their apprenticeship, but they make money 3 to 6 months in. Okay. And in some cases, I think that check you with your local labor laws, but it might technically be against the law to have an apprentice working in your studio and not paying them. So
yeah, I never thought about that actually.
Yeah, because slavery is outlawed now. So unless you're set up as a legitimate internship type of program,
I think that's
or somehow you kind of know what the law is in your area, then and I think a lot of people just look the other way because they didn't know that that was the case, or they just go with, what has been like the sort of the standard, culture in tattooing. And the idea is that, you're just, you're exchanging your labor, whether that's just like cleaning up around the shop or helping the setup and break down, or, back in my day, it was making needles for the mentor and scrubbing their tubes and all these things.
Wild. Yeah.
Just with no pay at all. So, I was working a third shift job at a gas station, and then sleeping, and then going to the shop when they open pretty late at like 2 p.m. So it was like 2 to 9 at the tattoo shop, and then drive to the gas station and sit there all night and copy, designs out of the back of the yellow pages because I didn't have Google image search, so I'm just like trying anything I can to find references,
That's funny because when I went to my tattoo school, I was doing the pedicab at nighttime. So I would leave my school and go to work at 8 o'clock and get off at 3 in the morning and go back home and sleep and go back to school. And it was terrible. But and working only for tips too. So you have to like hustle people.
Oh, the pedicab. I was about to say, you got tips at the tattoo shop?
No,
like
I got nothing at the tattoo shop.
Right.
No, I think there was like maybe people wanted to tip me, and then like I'd like go back around the corner and like, hey, give me like $20, like I'm trying to get something.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes there's, an artist that works at the shop during your apprenticeship that you can kind of do some extra, cleaning favors for, like sometimes sometimes you're responsible for cleaning up for everybody at the shop. And then sometimes you've just got like the one person who's your like assigned mentor, you're like the servant for or whatever. But, there's ways you can, you're gonna text for another margarita.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. I guess, we could just mute the microphones and start yelling at them.
Thank you.
Hopefully that worked and you guys didn't hear me yelling for a drink. Did you ever draw from the Huck Spalding catalog? Yes, absolutely. I'm glad you mentioned that, Tommy. I had the Huck Spalding catalog before I apprenticed, and that was actually where I ordered my tattoo kit from. The first one came from Spalding and Rogers, and it came with like one box of gloves and a few needles, 2 machines, and this giant toaster oven with the power supply, and a certificate that you could put your name in that said tattoo artist, and a T-shirt that said tattoo artist, so everyone would know that you were legit, And I read that book, Tattooing A to Z by Huck Spalding, and at the end of that book is a chapter about how to open your studio. So like it was like pretty much, it seemed like I had everything that I needed. And the catalog also came with an even thicker flash catalog. So, on each page of this, we used to like blow them up and blow it up again and again and again.
I did the same thing.
You try to trace it, and it was always such a mess because you didn't really understand what you were trying to draw.
Oh, because they were like that small.
They were way too small.
Smallest drawing ever, and you would try to blow it up. I did the exact same thing.
I used to do that. So before my apprenticeship, I spent a little time tattooing out of my dorm room at Georgia State. And then I left college and I moved in my parents' basement. I was tattooing there. And I remember I didn't know how to use a rinse cup.
Okay.
Huck Spalding's book didn't mention that you would need to like, it mentioned that you wanted to clean it out really good between colors so they didn't stain each other. So I didn't know about rinse cup.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. So what I did was I took the machine apart between colors, and I got some dental floss. And I fed it through the tip of the tube, and then I would like hold one end and just floss the tube on this dental floss
between every color.
Yeah, between every color. So it was a very inefficient process.
Forever.
And it wasn't until I got my 4th tattoo, which was my first professional tattoo, that I learned about the magical rinse cup.
You're like, sorry, your tattoo took 7 hours. But I had to clean between colors. That's wild.
Yeah.
I bet that didn't work very good.
Not at all. No, it didn't.
You might as well just rinsed it out in the color and just like.
It could have done a lot of things differently, but I didn't know any better.
Yeah.
But I got a job tattooing at a CD shop in my town because they already had a guy doing body piercing there, and I knew that he had an autoclave. And of course, I read that an autoclave was a superior method to sterilizing my tubes and needles than the liquid that Spalding and Rogers had told me.
Oh,
that
wow.
was soaking
Okay.
everything in.
Yeah,
So, and
that's
I wanted to be more responsible, so I went to the piercing shop and I asked if there was any way that I could, you know, put my stuff in the autoclave. And the guy that was piercing there, he offered me a job tattooing right then and there. He said, "Oh man, you
nice.
tattooed? Like, come on in here and run
Wow.
one on me. Let's see
So
how
you-
you do. Maybe we can get
You're
you a
like,
job
can I
here."
use your autoclave? And he's like, you got a job.
Yeah, exactly. Like I ticked all the right boxes.
That's amazing.
So yeah, I brought my gear up and I did a tribal tattoo on his leg.
Did you
And
show him your dental floss?
no, I'd already learned the rinse cup by
All
then.
right,
I
all
also knew how to stick the ink caps down with Vaseline
Oh,
by
nice.
that
Yeah.
time.
You didn't get one of those little like those little cover or those little like metal things that they used to sell that you could put all the ink caps in?
Yeah, no, I couldn't afford those. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Those were.
They didn't
I
come with
remember
the
getting
kit.
one of those, and
Yeah,
it was
that
super
was
cool.
pretty unsanitary. It seemed like.
Yeah, no. Super.
But yeah, so you know, it crazy start, but you know, it only took me like a few months of that before I was like serious enough now at, you know, 19 years old that I was ready to put myself through an apprenticeship.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, but I think it did take some time to sort of go from like tattooing is hobby and is interesting to I'm ready to make a serious, you know, commitment of, you know, potentially a year or more. Instead of going back to college, I'm gonna like get this apprenticeship and dive in and, you know, honestly never look back. So I'm really grateful that, you know, I didn't do more awful tattoos or hopefully didn't give out any, you know, dental floss diseases during that time. But you know, I definitely, you know, I didn't have that ideal, you know, fairy tale tattoo story, and you know, I think most people don't, and that's just how it is.
I mean, I definitely boiled a couple tubes in water, thinking they were clean. And yeah, I mean, being a scratcher starting out was probably. I mean, it's funny now because I'm like, please do not do that. And then I think back on my own life, and I'm like, man, I was doing all the wrong things.
Right.
And there's definitely a pretty high number of people out there that have really terrible fucking scratcher tattoos I did in their living room while they were drunk or something. And yeah.
You're reminding me of something that this has been on my mind. I want to bring this up because I've never talked about this publicly. But yeah, so here it is, guys. Why are we telling people who want to become a tattooer that what they need to do is go get a bunch of tattoos so that they can spend enough time in a tattoo shop that the person who's tattooing them will somehow take a liking to them and offer them an apprenticeship? That seems like, for a number of reasons, the most inefficient, you know, method. But also, it's making a lot of really bad tattoos on people who end up becoming tattooers. Like, how many tattooers do you know that aren't covered in crappy tattoos because they were told the only way to become a tattooer is to, like you did, like 800 tattoos on your leg.
Yeah,
or
I've been getting them
like
lasered
most
off
people,
for years.
Yeah, like you know, it's like, hey, how about this? How about don't get any tattoos? Focus on designing tattoos. Learn everything there is to learn about tattoo art and style.
Draw 5 things a day.
Draw 5 things a day. Find out who your favorite tattooers in the world are. Find a way to generate enough income for yourself by doing awesome tattoos. Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. These look awesome. Cheers.
Cheers.
Yes, that's excellent. Find a way to generate enough income for yourself by doing awesome tattoos. Travel to your favorite tattooer in the world. Get a bodysuit by someone who specializes in bodysuit. You know, get a full sleeve. Why not?
Full sleeve or a full body?
I don't care that you. I don't care if you are a young in age or young in experience tattooer and you don't have tattoos.
No, I think people should think about the tattoos.
I love that you want to get tattoos. I love to hear, you know, I don't have tattoos because I'm waiting to get the tattoos in my dreams. As a person who wanted in my career to do some bodysuits, I feel like all the people that would have gotten them,
I mean, I feel like it's a little bit
told to get little crappy tattoos as a starter.
You're asking a lot of people to tell everyone to go get a bodysuit from my favorite tattooer. But I
Why is
like what
that?
you're doing.
Why can't we have that?
Sure.
You know?
I do think that we should all think about our tattoos a little bit more before we start getting tattooed, because being a 14-year-old that started tattooing myself, and now being a 34-year-old who's been lasering tattoos off their body for the last 10 years,
Right.
Maybe think about this tattoo a little bit.
Yeah. I used to think of
I
my
don't know
legs
that
as like sort of the trash place. You know?
Oh,
like,
yeah.
You know, I was
My
always like, it
thighs.
didn't matter. It was just going to go down there on my legs, and I would save. You know, still to this day, I haven't really tattooed my back. You know, I have a little bit on my upper back, but you know, okay. So some realistic advice that maybe people will listen to. You know, don't get your arms tattooed, right? At first.
Sure.
Maybe wait until you can afford to get tattooed by your favorite tattooer.
Maybe get tattooed by your favorite tattooer. Let's start there.
Yeah. Yeah. Don't just get tattooed by your favorite tattooer at the shop in your town.
No, don't just walk into a tattoo shop. No, find the person that's your favorite tattooer and get tattooed
in the
by
world,
them.
right?
Wherever,
In
yeah.
the world.
I flew I flew 4 hours across the country to get tattooed by you.
Yeah.
So
that's how you're going to learn some really, really special.
I mean, that's how to get good tattooed. I don't know that you're learning anything about tattooing by doing it, but
well, you might.
All right.
So Cassie and I can't agree on this one, but I'm not surprised by that, because I'm asking a lot. I'm basically saying to all of you out there who are listening to this, the next time someone asks you for advice on how to become a tattooer, maybe don't tell them to go get tattoos when they can't afford them yet, because it's not going to end well.
Focus on your artwork. That's the most important thing. Every tattooer that I've hired that's fresh into tattooing, that was incredibly talented at art, just nailed it first try, and they took off running, and you know, they are busy forever and are doing a great job. Anyone that, you know, it starts tattooing without knowing anything, you have to learn how to draw as you're learning to tattoo.
Right.
And that's a lot of work, maybe more than you even anticipate. Probably more than you anticipate. Like it's a lot of practice. So draw those 5 drawings a day.
Sure. There's a lot going in the chat room. I haven't been able to follow it all.
Let's hear it.
What's happening? I think we're just having a detailed discussion about some side stuff here.
That's okay.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff about different people's
I'm
state
sure there's a lot. Yeah. Well, I'm sure everyone is up in arms about the tattoo school conversation in general. And I don't think I'm on one side or another, even though I went to the tattoo school. I think that, you know, I think there's so much value in the apprenticeship, but I also see an industry that has been pieced together by so much renegade everything. Like, you know, we're looking at everything from medical supplies to, you know, people learning to use thermofax machines in prison. Whether you knew that or not, that's where those thermofax came from.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, that prisoners were the ones that figured that out. And so I think in an industry that's so disjointed and so renegade, which everyone is holding on to this like punk rockness, which I love. Like, there has to be some level of unification. There has to be somewhere that we can teach people to do this thing and also hold on to the tradition. Like, it doesn't have to be what's happening now. It doesn't have to be where I went to school, because obviously that's not perfect. And it doesn't have to be the apprenticeship. Like, both sides are broken. Like, they're, I don't know.
Yeah, it's going to be up to each individual to seek out the best that they can for themselves, right? You know, and then it's impossible for any of us to judge every detail of how you find your way into this industry, because none of us could totally pass the sniff test when it comes to you know what we did and what we were capable of in our early days. And you know, so I think it's not fair to judge. It is fair to ask that everybody, you know, consider safety, consider bloodborne pathogens training, consider creating a safe environment and just considering very carefully what it is that you're about to tattoo on someone. Have your drawing prepared, have everything lined up and ready to do it correctly. And there's no rush to tattooing, right? You don't have to start tattooing right away. There's a lot of ways you can just focus on drawing, like you said, 5 drawings a day for months. Yes, you can order tattoo equipment on Amazon. It's probably garbage. Most likely, the inks that you're getting on Amazon are probably not the best. I don't know a lot of my peers in tattooing that order their supplies from Amazon. Maybe like their medical supplies, but as far as like their inks and their machines and all these things, like there's a cheap knockoff version of every quality piece of gear that professionals use on Amazon, and it's crazy that all that stuff is there.
Well, it's Amazon just making everything in every world available to everyone. They're doing their thing.
Yeah. I'm not going to boycott Amazon for it. I appreciate being able to get so many other things from Amazon. But look, the thing is, like, there is still a professional level of supplies that, maybe cost a lot more money. And, I imagine is probably a more quality product because they're the ones putting in the R&D to make sure that they're creating a quality product before it gets knocked off by the next people.
Well, I think it should be said too that like buying like anyone can just buy something and start. That's honestly how I started. I didn't have Amazon. I had a crazy meth head tattooer that would sell me tattoo machines when I was 14.
Grants Pass.
I've heard a lot about that place. So my version of Amazon, but I learned so many bad habits, and I think that's like the biggest thing about trying to learn on your own. That's really a bummer. Is like there's so many things that when you learn to do it the right way, it makes so much sense. When you hold your needle in the perfect angle, when you do the thing just right, it comes out great. Like I was using coil machines and holding the coil out in the air when I was tattooing. When I first got my coil machine, every tattoo I did, just like the coil out in the air. And it just took, it was my school. It was like, hey, you're doing that fucking wrong.
Right.
And I mean, I know everyone's probably so mad about me talking about school like this, but I mean, it was basically I had an apprenticeship and it worked out okay for me.
Yeah.
If anything, I learned a lot more there than I did going to the tattoo shop after that, which is ironic, but I was there alone too.
Yeah. Incredible. All right. Well, I feel like we beat this tattoo school thing to death.
We did, yeah.
Maybe we'll take a little time while we still have an audience to chat about a few other things.
Yeah.
I would love to know, because you've been to Ink and Dagger a few times as a guest artist over the years. How do you think that Ink and Dagger is different than maybe your shop or other shops that you've been in? I'd really love to have your perspective on kind of, how is it different other than the music problem, which I know you want to talk about, but
I could talk all day. We could have this whole podcast about the music.
Maybe we'll save that one for another time.
I think like the first thing, I think your shop was the first shop that I did a guest spot at, actually, ever. And I don't know if you remember me showing up for my first guest spot with a giant Pelican case.
Probably, I had way too much stuff.
Oh man, I had like my whole shop in a box. Like
he brought his Tatsoul table.
Oh dude, I had, I like bought a Pelican case that was like huge, like someone, I don't know. It was absolutely ridiculous. Yeah. But so I showed up, but so your shop was my first experience as a guest spot. So it was a good place to land because you guys just took care of me. Like just right out the gate, like everything from, here's your place to tattoo and all the basic stuff that you would get from any guest spot, but, also taking care of the clients and, having snacks and, all the things. And I mean, there's also just a beautiful environment to be in. I don't think you've been to my shop, but my shop's much smaller, and we do not provide half of the things that
no
you guys
snacks.
provide. No snacks. You can bring your own snacks.
Right.
I mean, if you really want a snack, I'll get you a snack. But mostly, you can bring your own snacks.
Can I recommend that you consider getting some snacks?
Okay. I mean, okay. Wait. I should say we were doing granola bars for a while.
Yeah, it's a good choice.
COVID kind of fucked up our snack. We had a candy machine you could get candy from.
Yeah.
We also had lots of things right around our shop. Like you could literally walk out the door and there's food. So
right.
I think that's a little bit different than your shop where you're kind of in a, a little bit.
You can walk out the door and get a dildo.
You go to Hooters. Yeah. But I think also just like the interior of your shop, the biggest thing for me that was wild walking into your shop and seeing pictures of the inside and then getting there where I'm like, you're in a strip mall and you walk inside and like everything changes. So like you have this cool environment that like you forget where you are. Which I like that a lot. And I think I try to do that a lot in my shop too. Like mine is in this weird kind of it's basically a basement, but like you walk in on ground level and it's built into a mountain. So like, or not a mountain, a hill. No, it's in a city. It's not a mountain.
You're a master of exaggeration.
Yeah. It's not a mountain. But like where my station is completely underground. So, I mean, I don't know. It's different. I don't know how to say it.
All right. Well, I'm going to pull this question up.
All right,
Speakeasy Tattoo says, selfishly, I would love to hear Russ talk about employees versus contractors because I've never seen an example.
Okay.
So I'm going to assume that you mean that you have never seen an example of employees in the tattoo studio because contractors are pretty common, right? So
yeah.
At Ink and Dagger, we went through the process of making our artists employees. We did this during the time we were shut down from the pandemic. One of the reasons that we decided to finally do this, we were starting to hear some stories from other states about the Department of Labor coming and fining tattoo studios because they were improperly classifying their workers.
Oh, wow. So like if you had private contractors and they were, not following the perfect criteria, then they would.
Right.
Okay.
And the perfect criteria is a matter of, in a way, opinion. There's some rules about it. Some things that you can kind of do in the way you set up your structure with artists to where, you feel a little more confident that you would pass the test if they ever came asking.
Totally.
I think that it looked like the way that we were running our business at Ink and Dagger, where we had, support staff, we had a website with the artist on it, we were taking money at the front desk, we were dealing with the calendaring for them, we were supplying a lot of stuff. There was a lot that we were doing that, when I talked to a labor attorney about it during that time, they told me, Russ, you're digging a hole right now. If this was ever to, come up, I could defend you, and it would cost $450 an hour, and we would probably win, but you'd spend so much, defending yourself that it would be worth it.
Well, you were also trying to provide so much for the people in your shop, though. Like I don't think you were coming at it.
We were treating them like employees, right?
Well, you were like, I
doing so much.
I want to give them everything. Yeah. But it wasn't like you have to have that separation for the contractor.
Yeah. And on the other side of it, if they became employees, then we could start to do even more, right? We could start to think about offering group health insurance. That's the first thing that we did. So
every tattooer doesn't have.
Even when they have the ability to get it, it seems that they don't always want it. But yeah, but it's available, and so we made that available. And the new thing that we did that I'm super excited about was we got the 401k retirement program. It's just starting right now. Yeah, and
that's big.
Yeah, it's super cool.
I mean, I started my own retirement plan like 3 years ago or something, and that was a big deal. I got a whatever Roth IRA, but that was a big deal for me. And
well, if you worked at Ink and Dagger,
yeah, I tried to get me to move here a couple times.
If you worked at Ink and Dagger, you could have it matched as well.
Still
like
not
you
moving here,
contribute. No one wants to live in Georgia. That's part of the problem.
Hey,
But
it's beautiful.
People who are
everyone should move here, and everyone should go work for Russ because it's awesome here.
Yeah, it's got its pluses and minuses.
Yeah.
We at least have all 4 seasons.
Hey, you got them more than we got them. Fuck, you got humidity. That's
yeah.
You
definitely have the humidity. We also have really good air conditioning indoors. That's what you got to realize. You can just avoid going
Shout out
outside.
to air conditioning.
These second margaritas are doing the job.
Yeah, you're fucking going for it on that one.
All right, so let me see. I want to share a little bit more about the employees.
Yeah.
What else is there?
I want to hear more about it.
I've got the 401k. We're matching. We're doing the profit sharing.
Yeah.
If
what else are you?
Has profit, we can put some of that into their.
What else are you giving to your people that are working there? Like, do you have anything that's special that you're providing to the employees rather than if you were a private contractor?
Well, we called the retirement program the Golden Tooth retirement program.
I wonder why.
Because I have a golden tooth, right? But I got this gold tooth after 10 years of owning the tattoo shop.
I remember your wife saying she didn't want you to get it.
No one wanted it. But
I like it. It looks
here it is.
All right, here you are.
So
it looks great. I think it looks awesome. I need full
support
of it.
Me, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So at that point, I started saying that it was my reward for 10 years of owning a shop, and that if I made it to 20 years, I would get myself a second golden tooth.
You might be a little far.
Yeah, but I feel like that's a thing that tattooers do. I don't know if it's official like that, but maybe it is.
No, but that's a good.
So if you were, and I started telling the people that work at Ink and Dagger, if you make it to 10 years, I'll buy you a gold tooth. And I was saying that long before we had a retirement program. So this is sort of like the new version of.
I like that.
And I guess if they want the gold tooth at 10 years, I'm still happy to buy them.
Yeah.
I think that I would absolutely love to do that. Eddie Stacy would be the first. He's like probably a year and a half away from getting his tooth. So hopefully he lives that long. Yeah.
Oh man.
Let's see what else.
Is it gonna have a little like Ink and Dagger logo on the gold tooth?
Whatever he wants. That's up to him. But as far as like what else do we do? I mean, what our business model is, we are like a full service, like concierge for the artist, right? Like it's a percentage based studio. We have a lot to do with everything but tattooing, right? Like if you just kind of strip everything that could exist around the tattoo service down to what the tattooer must do, we try to do as much of the other things as we can for them, so that they can just focus on creating their art and doing a great tattoo. So we build out a lot of services around the customer facing part of it. We try to make sure that we've set up systems that help engage the customer, make sure that they know when their appointment is happening and that they actually show up for it, and that they have a wonderful experience while they're there. And so it's really like we're two different businesses at once. On the one hand, we're serving tattooers, right? Our customer is the tattooer who works there. And on the other hand, we're serving customers, and we're making sure that the relationship between the customer and the artist is as dialed in as it can be.
Really.
And we're doing a lot to help the artist with their personal positioning and their personal brand, and making sure that that people see them as they want to be seen, so that the projects that come through to them are the ideal projects from the ideal customers.
So Ink and Dagger is like pushing every artist more out into the world, and like you're using the brand to help them a lot.
Yeah, I mean, from the minute they start working at Ink and Dagger, they're already benefiting from our reputation and the fact that people understand that this is a place where great tattoos happen. So they get a boost right away. But then it's just being in the environment. They're learning from the other artists that are there, but they're also just observing and and quickly adapting to a different way of behaving as a tattooer.
Yeah, I mean, it's a
Right?
great
And
place to
it's
come.
a huge come up. You know?
I always
Like,
loved
yeah.
coming and hanging out at Ink Dagger. I've always had a great time.
Thank you.
Yeah, and now you guys got more snacks and more drinks.
We
for
have a
all
lot
of
of
us.
snacks.
Yeah, I love it. No, it's great. I know. I mean, it's honestly like my shop is such a bare bones. Like I have a woman that's my counter girl, but she only works Fridays and Saturdays. And I mean, nowadays with COVID, our doors are locked mostly, so we don't do walk-ins or anything. But it's cool to I think my tattoo shop is a lot more of like a glorified private studio where it's multiple artists, um, and then coming to your shop where it's like it feels so welcoming. Like everyone, all the even for the artists, but also for the clients. Like people come in there and like everything's fucking just done. It's weird. I'm so not used to it.
Well,
It's
is
nice.
there anything from our shop that you would like to take back to your shop?
Oh, there's lots of things. I don't think that they will happen. It takes a lot to put on that show and
Mhm.
to create that environment. Like I know just from being a shop owner, like I talked to you before I even took over my shop, and like you gave me so much advice about being an owner and like it's about running that business, but also everything from the client perspective. And it once I took over the shop, I really like understood like wow, I can barely provide anything to to anyone. Like I can barely provide to my artists and to my clients anywhere near what you would provide. Like just based on the amount of money that I'm taking in and like because I think my shop has so little artists and so little clientele that like I can't provide what you're providing at all. Like it wouldn't make sense. Like I could spend every dollar that I'm taking in and still not be where you're at for the artist and the clientele. So it's really interesting perspective to like come into a shop like yours where you have this whole operation that's so like so well perfected and like I don't know like I walk into your shop and it's such a warm and fun environment. There's snacks, there's drinks, like everyone is there to help you. And I'm coming in from an artist perspective, but then also from a client perspective, like people are there to just instantly greet you and everything is taken care of. And I think that that's an experience that a lot of people don't receive in a tattoo shop. Definitely don't receive that in my tattoo shop. Not that it's like mean or scary, but like our shop is pretty bare bones and you get to the shop and it's me greeting you at a locked door. And I might have a snack for you if you really want it, but go to the next store and get some food.
Right.
Not to talk down on my own shop, but it's a different environment for sure. And
It's so, I mean, I think you're limited by the size of it, right? So,
yeah.
it's like if you want to get to a place in your tattoo studio where there's enough of what there. Okay, so there's what you charge for the service
Yeah.
of the tattoo, right? Which as you know, I believe is not fixed in place.
No.
Is not governed by the local economy. It's not governed by what other tattooers at other shops
No.
charge. It's literally just a number that is probably more controlled by the artist and their feelings than any other real economic forces. As long as the artist is well positioned and is an expert tattooer that people would travel to get tattooed by, you could probably charge whatever you want. But there's the all individual personalities of the artists that are working there, and how much they're willing to work, how much they're willing to charge, how much they're successfully completing those services and billing those clients. And then there's the fact that the space is small, so you're limited on how many of them you can have in there, right? So there was a big difference from when we were 1,000 square foot shop in Decatur, and we moved to Roswell, and it was more than double. And then eventually we grew even larger. So now we have enough booths for 13 artists.
Wow.
Not we don't have 13 working there now, but we can flex to that if we wanted to.
Well, and you probably like grow and fall. Like I'm
Right.
sure people leave and people come.
It's like sort of swells and contracts, at all times. But the big change from having 3/4 booths to having at first 8 and then 13 is that as the owner trying to make all the numbers work, you become more confident that of course someone's going to be out of town, someone's going to be sick, someone's going to be just going to have a cancellation. All of these factors that happen, they affect the whole less when you have more artists working there. There is a point where you have too many fucking people in the building.
Yeah.
Right. And so you have to find where that balance is.
Yeah.
So that you have enough people that are there tattooing, bringing in enough income where you can now go out and find some talented people to work that support role. We don't call it a front counter bitch or any of those derogatory terms. Like they are support.
Do people,
right?
Do people say front counter bitch?
Yeah. I guess you haven't worked in enough tattoo shops to know that.
No,
yeah,
I've never.
Yeah,
oh my god.
I mean, they a front counter girl. It's like It just makes that role into something less than what we feel that it is, right? Like it to me is one of the most important.
You just say support staff.
You say support staff to be respectful of.
I mean, I don't know that
they're
front
doing.
Counter person is.
Well, it kind of means that they only exist at the front counter, and there's just so much more that they do. That you could call them the supply room person. You could call them the mop room person.
Very fair.
You could call them the Costco run person or the Amazon ordering person. Or
my front counter person does do a lot more than the front counter. That's fair. Yeah.
So support
like
staff.
That, actually,
we're not the only ones that call it that, but
I know.
The idea is just that now we have support staff that are on the 401k and are getting the health insurance available to them. And I think that what we would like to see happen is that role goes from where a lot of shops think it's front counter, and we're calling it support staff, to now these are the people who are just performing a lot of higher end services, right? So
I mean, if anything, those are the people that are making the shop run. Like on some level, like obviously there's more to that, but like my support staff, orders all the shit for us. They go to Costco and they go, get all the things and clean the shop and all the things. I mean, I work in such a small space, like he does a lot. And I mean, it's. I think like I love coming to your shop because it feels like everything's in here. It's weird. Like it's honestly to a weird level of like, wow, I'm like in the luxury tattoo studio.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of the point.
No, and you're doing a good job of it. Like I love it, and it I think ours is working out well too. Like I don't think I need to get to that point of being in like a luxury state. Like not everything is handed to you or taken care of. Like I'm there to do your fucking tattoo, and you come and you get the tattoo and you leave. And I appreciate what you're doing, but I don't know that I'll get to that point.
Yeah, it's probably not for everybody.
No. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it, but I don't know. I don't think I need that either. I try my best to provide stuff for people.
Okay. Well, look, I feel like we're getting on to close to 2 hours now. So
is there any more questions that we need to answer?
Yeah, let's give a last call to the chat room if there's anything that you wanted to know that.
Well, is there anything that anyone's answered so far?
Forrest, is there something in there that I should look for?
There were a couple about asking like you can dagger the shop.
I see one here. Chris Bowen. Hey, Chris. I'd like to know how you're paying the employees, a percentage or hourly. The employees, well, we have support staff who are paid hourly, and then we have the tattooists who are on percentage. So, yeah, I mean, you can have an employee who is a commission only employee, at least in the state of Georgia. So,
oh, you were saying that to me. I think that's true everywhere. I don't know, because I've not gone down that road. But it makes sense that you could just have, you know.
Have you ever had a productivity quality issue that you had to overcome when you first transitioned to employees? No, I mean the people who were previously subcontractors became employees, so you know nothing essentially changed for them other than we were now paying a portion of their taxes. So I think it was probably important that we try to make everything essentially the same for them because we weren't trying to upset the apple cart.
I mean, I could imagine switching from being a contractor to being an employee is a weird thing. And like, I mean, I don't know, going through that with your shop, it's got to be a unique experience for tattoo shop, especially. Like, I mean, everyone that works in my shop is a contractor. And I feel like if I were to tell them, hey, by the way, you're now going to be employees, there might be some pushback.
Yeah, I felt that too, and there was.
Yeah,
there's some people that are not working there anymore, but
sure.
Ultimately, I think they understood that it was a decision that I had to make. That was and it was an opportunity for them to decide how they felt about it, and to move on if they wanted to. And so,
from what you were saying earlier, like when you were tattooing me, it was like it sounded like you're giving them I guess the benefits and all the things change a little bit because like you're paying some of the taxes now, which I would love for someone to pay my taxes. But so like it's like a weird perspective change where you're doing more for them and things are changing in a weird way that I think most people when they look at it like, oh, I'm going to switch from a contractor to being an employee, that I think they think they're losing out. But it seems like what you were saying, like you're not really losing. You're gaining a lot of stuff. If anything, like you're getting health insurance and 401k, and you're paying some of their taxes. Like that actually seems tight. I wish that someone would do that for me.
It's really hard. That's why most tattoo shops run the other way. It's just way more simple to just call everybody a subcontractor and not have to pay these taxes on their behalf. You just issue the 1099, and then your hands are off. It's up to them to deal with taxes, and it's not your problem. And,
well, that's why most tattooers don't have insurance.
Most tattooers don't have insurance. Most tattooers aren't saving for retirement. I don't know if that's true. I imagine.
No, I think it is. I started a Roth IRA just for myself recently, but like I feel like most tattooers don't have retirement plans. They don't have health insurance. I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of people that do.
Weighing less responsibility and more benefits versus possible less freedom, was that the issue? Yeah, look, the issue is the idea. At that point, when you're switching them from subcontractors to employees, they have this voice in their head that has basically been the voice of the tattoo shop owner who was trying to convince them that being a subcontractor was in their interest. Right. So that voice has been a very powerful voice in tattooing. Instead, oh, we're pirates, like Uncle Sam don't need to know about this. And it's that voice is telling them, oh, they're gonna make you into an employee. That means you're about to become, controlled in some way. I think that doesn't have to be true, and Georgia is a right to work state, which means that I can terminate someone's employment at any time, and they can terminate their own employment whenever they want to. I'm not forcing anyone to work in my tattoo shop, and I'm not creating a situation where they're not free to make their own choice. And I'm also not trying to do anything horrible to them when they decide to leave. Right? Like I'm really, really not trying to do that.
I think also there's a big lack of knowledge. Like, I mean, I know just when I took over my shop, and I started going and seeing an accountant and a financial advisor, I started learning so much more about like tax laws, and like there's so much information out there that is so unknown. And like people that are working as contractors in a studio probably have rights that they don't even know about, or they're working because they're in this punk rock tattoo situation where they're like, oh, this is my best option, and maybe it is, but like I think there's a lot, like, I mean, I don't know, from what I've heard about your situation in your shop, like I don't think you're fucking people over. Like you're actually giving people more than most people are. And like, I mean, I don't know, being a subcontractor for my whole life and then getting into, owning a shop and governing other people, I'm like, fuck, there's so much more out there that I had no clue about. Like, I still, I'm learning.
Yeah, me too.
There's a lot.
It's
and
like, with every new, change in the business, it gets more and more complex.
One, like tax laws and all the things when it comes to like employment and employees, and like I think people really get stressed on these terms and stuff. But like, I mean, I encourage everyone to like go fucking learn about this shit because it's complicated. All the tax stuff, all the contractor, employee, like there's so many rules and so many laws, and I'm still learning it all. Yeah. And I think it would benefit.
Everybody opens a perfect business, though. It's
no, but I think it would benefit all tattooers to learn about this stuff. Like we are a group of people that are notoriously working in an environment that like we're just flying under the radar. And yeah, that's great.
We just don't know a lot of people who are, more experienced in our industry to advise.
I mean,
those things,
I will guarantee you that everyone will benefit from having health insurance and having a retirement plan. And whether that means you do it for yourself or you do it through somebody else, like all of that shit is new to me, like in the last few years, and like learning about investments, learning about money, learning how all this shit works is so new. And like I think most tattooers feel the same way, where you're rolling into this business with like this renegade like punk rock vibe, which is cool, but we're all going to be 80 one day, and when I'm 80 I want to have a fucking retirement plan, and so I fucking do it.
Right on. Cheers to you, Cassady Bell. Thank you for coming to visit me.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us on Tattoo Smart Live. To all of you, thanks for sticking with us. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel. We really appreciate you guys. Good night.